All right, let's do it live on a First Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z. He does not like mayo on his sandwiches.
Jeez Louise.
Just doesn't like it.
Come on. I detest mayo.
It's known.
Order a sandwich, no mayo at all. And not only is it slathered in it, it's on the top, it's
Top
on the
and
bottom.
There was no way out.
Ugh.
Give me
Yes.
Did you see who just walked by?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned.
By the way, this is on brand for the conversation.
I'm giving this
currently.
sandwich place a real rap sheet, if you know what I mean.
Team Schultz.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
So the reality is behind the curtain here. So we were, looking for a little bit of lunch in the noonish
Boy, were
hour,
we.
but things were kind of
Needed
stacked
it.
up. And
Yeah.
so, that lunch ended up taking place more around 2:10 is when it ended up happening.
That's right.
And so we had put together orders for a little pickup and then have a lunch and away you go. And there are two things that I know that you abhor from a food standpoint. Number one would be any sort of a hard-boiled egg,
Ugh.
of anything of that, and then any sort of mayo or
No
crema.
thanks. Yep.
We're out on mayo and crema.
Yep.
And so when Dr. Z got his Sammy
And let's just say,
double layered,
this was a needed.
that's my point.
This was
we
a-
were looking for it at 11:20.
This was a needed
And it was
sandwich.
3 hours later.
Yeah.
The events of last night juxtaposed only enhanced the need for it.
The desire for.
That's right.
Yeah, and
Need to do
instead
some
it was
soaking.
see on down the road. We had a great night last night, though. Let's
It was a great
be
night.
honest.
This was a great night. Really a fun night.
So we had got to eat at Elmo's, which was delightful. I'm not gonna. There are tweaks I would like to see, but the shrimp was excellent.
Shrimp was excellent.
One of the
Salads
best-
were good.
One of the best au jus I've had, and
It had a lot of flavor.
Oh, it was delightful.
A robust au jus.
yeah,
A delicious salad.
wonderful salad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they.
I'd call it a rib. I wouldn't say it was prime. I'd call it a rib.
Yeah. I mean, I love everything about it. I love the atmosphere. I love the folks that are there. I think they make a great cocktail. The dessert is always a delight. We've had various desserts.
Yeah.
The dessert we had last night was
To
good.
be fair, though, it's really our fault. We did a whole
There is.
discussion on how to handle the situation last night, and then we were sweet-talked out of it.
So, knowing what we knew from a year ago, and
That's
now
right.
you've known for many years.
That's right.
We knew that the play was to order medium.
Yep.
And our waiter was great, and so we ordered the medium. But you have a caveat. You say, look, I'm a medium rare, but you guys do
Should've
things a
just
little
shut
different.
my mouth. Just ordered the medium and
And I was with you because when he came to me, so you ordered first, and then we went all the way around
Yep.
with Siciliano and Gibbe, and then he came to me. I was last, and so I was in a situation where I then parroted what you said, and I said, look, I'm medium rare, but I feel like you guys are under that, especially on the prime rib. And he goes, well, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go medium, no marks. Okay.
You guys got excited about that.
well, it
Well,
sounded
see,
good.
He was a great
But
salesman.
he sold it well. He's been there.
sold
He's a
it.
veteran, 24 years.
But- yeah,
Everybody
it's
in there
great. He was
slinging steaks
fantastic.
has been there 20 years. They're
But
all great.
It really was the exact way it would have been had we ordered it.
It was the exact same experience I had last year.
Yeah. So, and we gave the caveat because
I think I even said I need the fat to render in the prime
you
rib.
did say
I'm
it.
pretty sure
You
I
did say
said
it.
that.
And instead, it was like a
It was congealed.
gelatinous.
Yeah.
block.
No. Yeah. No. So I
Still
don't know.
delicious.
I don't
It
know.
still
I'm gonna,
was.
next year, I'm going to have a different
approach.
entirely to
I'm
meal
gonna keep.
there.
I'm gonna keep.
Keep seeing if we
You
can
know
get
what?
it to
You
hit.
know what I like right now? This might be the first combine on record where you threw a next year in there. Normally, it's I'm never coming. Never
my
doing
last
this
one.
again. It's
Never
my
come to
last one.
Indiana
Never
again.
come. Yeah, that's
Never
your
come
bit,
again.
and now you're in. So
No,
he's
I'm
in.
I'm back.
Corporate
There you go.
bow.
Corporate
Love
bow's
it.
back.
One of the big perks
Yeah, it's
of
a big
corporate
moment.
bow.
Big
Tequila
moment.
Fila clapping
Big
over
moment.
there.
Getting a guaranteed combine appearance for next year.
Oh, I
already.
love that.
What a time.
It's fantastic. So
What a time to
that's
be
good.
alive.
We have that to look forward to. Then we went out and about it. One of the cool things about this is we called it kind of NFL Disneyland is we ended up running into some of our friends. My partner on my first ever fantasy football show, the great TJ Jefferson from our show back in the day, fantasy football. I think it was Fantasy Football Live is
Yeah.
what we called it. And we had clips. He had a clip from
He did.
2010 where
Awesome.
I'm doing the segment in a Week 10 start sits in a Randy Moss Marshall jersey.
Yeah.
He was in his Cowboy Chef outfit, so that was when we run into TJ. And then TJ's there, my good friend Don, and we run into Rich Eisen.
What a treat.
And Rich Eisen, turns out, has known about you for a decade.
It's crazy.
Eisen, a big Michigan fan. You obviously do the Buckeyes, your 3 things.
Yeah.
And Don had been sending 3 things by Bo Bishop to Rich Eisen for a decade. And what did he say when he saw you, when he was finally introduced?
I believe the quote was, "Wait, you're Bo effing Bishop?"
That's right, from Rich Eisen last night,
right.
who then proceeded to regale us with tales of the great LD.
Yeah.
I just said to him, I love when Larry's on your show. We got some tales, and then we had, Don and TJ be like, well, tell him this story.
Tell
him
that
this
one.
story. And just, what unreal.
Yeah, and that was so much fun.
That's the Combine.
It was so much fun, and that's the Combine, is running into folks, and obviously you've been doing this a lot longer than I have in terms of being over, but I've been over here quite a bit now, and you run into people in places who you've seen before. I mean, that relationship you have with TJ, that goes back 2 decades,
Yeah,
I mean, and so
almost 20 years.
Yeah, and you think about where you both have gone since, but then you keep that connective tissue, and you just never know. It's a really cool thing. How big the NFL feels at times, but also how small it is.
Yeah, that's funny. You have to run into our coaches and see people that you don't necessarily see in social settings, and
sometimes with odd people that they're dining with.
Yeah, that one.
Sometimes that
shocker.
happens.
You have no idea what's going on.
No idea what's going on.
No,
here.
you needed oral histories. How did we get to this moment?
Right.
Yeah,
needed all of those things.
Yeah.
Needed all of those things.
You needed it all.
You said it. I mean, I guess he said it. It's fair. To be fair. Todd will join us here in the second hour of the program. So today was his big day, where he had his podium session. He's amazing. And we'll talk to him about this, but just kind of starts to hit home. Okay, like the staff is pretty much there. There's a couple of things I know that he's waiting on for next week maybe, but for the most part, staff is there. And now we're all here, front office, coaching everybody, and now we're going to go about putting this to business. And you have these moments where you start to realize, man, he's one of 32.
Yep.
Lifelong dream realized, man. So pretty cool.
It's very cool. And again, as we've kind of told you all along, he's a guy that you're going to what you see is what you get.
That's right.
You ask a direct question, you're going to get a direct answer. He was very, very, I think, excited about this opportunity to be there on the podium. He is just as authentic as it gets, and I think you're as I've said, you're gonna like this. You're going to like his style. I know the interview I did with him right after he was hired, that 30-minute interview, when people really dove into that, they liked it. I just think this feels like at the time and the place that we are right now, this is absolutely the right guy.
Yeah, I would say so. And then the other thing that's really cool is you think of all the connective tissue that you all have around the league, and whether they know Todd or not, or just longtime observers, writers, whatever, the genuine happiness they have for him for getting the shot has been something that's very cool. And, you get these crazy things. I mean, like, you had John Harbaugh in Giants gear. I mean, like, we had the Stefanski yesterday over in the Falcons gear, and you look back and you're like, oh, yeah, he's over there. Normally he'd come talk to us. So, like, it's a massive, big world, but it also gets really small over here.
I mean, I was walking back yesterday, and John Harbaugh's in his Giants gear, and there were like 5 people who stopped him with mini Giants helmets, asking him to sign their helmets. And he's like,
right. Yeah, it's crazy.
Sure, okay, yeah, but
it's crazy.
Yeah. No, that's what's cool about the Combine, and all the people, all the people we get to talk to, all the people we get to learn from. Obviously, running into Greg Cosell, we've done that out. We're going to have an opportunity to sit down and talk with him on this show. He's the best. It's a very cool place in the NFL world. For a period of time where everybody's got. I can see Matt Starkey really enjoying his sandwich. Yeah, mine, they just botched my orders. Tragedy.
Did yours have mayo? See, every sandwich delivered didn't have mayo except the one guy who didn't want it.
Said no mayo.
No mayo.
All caps.
All caps. No mayo. All mayo.
I don't mean to laugh at your expense, but I'm laughing at your expense.
You are loving
You don't
it.
mean
No.
to.
Number one.
love it.
I got oil and vinegar. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, how about let's eat a little healthier? I mean,
Sure.
it's a sandwich. It's
Right.
probably
Looking
1,200
fantastic.
calories,
Yeah.
but let's not have the mayo on it.
Sure.
Mine had mayo.
Oh, yours had mayo too.
Yeah, mine had mayo.
I wonder if wires got crossed. The mayo non-mayo situation.
What if they just picked and chose? They were like, that one didn't want mayo. There's a disgruntled
How about
employee.
Dr. J? Dr. J's didn't have mayo, and he had to put mayo on
He
it.
wanted it.
So he had to put it on.
I think the lack of mayos made Dr. J have some real out-of-the-box thoughts, some real
He
wild
really said
thoughts.
some outliers.
Some outliers today.
It's a real out of the even preface.
He said, "Listen, this is,
It's an
I'll
outlier.
tell you right now, this is a bit of an outlier.
It's not door number 2.
No,
I assure
it's
you
not.
that.
It was. I'll tell you what.
I mean-
it was an option I hadn't thought of. It was an intriguing one.
I
to say the
believe
least.
some
It'll have to
of
be a
those
road
places
trip.
do offer food.
I think you probably have that right.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a
you
road
know.
trip door number 2, though.
Yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
not one you want to have a home game on.
No, absolutely.
Probably
not.
by
No.
thinking on how that goes. It has. So we do have players talk today. We had a lot of the defensive guys, linebackers, defensive line. So not necessarily positions of need for us, but the 2 Buckeye linebackers talk today. The defensive tackles talk today as well.
You can never have too many defensive tackles.
No, that's
though.
what I
Can't
keep
have
being
enough on the
told. That
defensive
just
line.
keep drafting them one every year, like the way the Packers used to draft quarterbacks. Like we
Yeah.
just draft defensive tackles one every
Why
year. But pretty
Maybe we'll end up
quiet.
with Don Majkowski, the Magic Man.
Boy, he was something. From Lynn Dickey to Don Mikowski to Brett Favre
To Aaron Rodgers.
to Aaron
Jordan
Rodgers
Love.
to Jordan Love. Yeah, pretty good.
Be nice.
Yeah, but kind of quiet league-wise.
I agree.
Now, Mr. Siciliano
Siciliano's
just showed
back.
up. He's back.
I heard I was blamed for, according to your tweet, I was blamed for Monken being late to the podium. Yeah, here. The great Siciliano.
Yeah, he walked out there and hi guys, and said, "Hey, look,
Yes.
I'm between Mike McDonald and Mike Vrabel. How cool is this?"
Yeah.
And then somebody said, "Oh, you're late." He goes, "I'm late. Blame Nathan. That's Nathan's fault."
What'd I do?
And then we're off and running. His first combine presser.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's
What a
great.
great way to start it.
Yeah.
All right.
Only a couple of curses, I think. I think it was maybe one.
I saw somebody was keeping an accounting of that. I believe Zach Jackson had an accounting of it. He dropped 1, 2, 3.
Oh, then I missed the other
some
2.
multiple times
Okay.
over. So maybe more. He said season ticket phones are ringing off the hook. Gets us.
The guy cracks me up.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
unreal.
Hysterical.
He's just very mad. He's real. You ask him a question, you're going to get an answer.
Yes.
You might not always like what he has to say, I
No.
would imagine, but you're going to know where you stand, which is good.
Yeah.
Have we played the interview from that you guys did?
No,
yet?
we just started. This
No,
is a
you can
okay,
tease
show
it.
now.
Oh, look, it's 3:12.
You can tease
Look
it.
at that.
In
How
the
about
old
it?
days.
In the old days.
Yes, it
Yes.
would have.
Okay.
In the 1 to 3.
The old days.
Oh, you guys are on a different time.
Yeah, we're 3 to 5 now.
Oh,
So then,
oh, got it.
Yeah,
got
then
it.
Zagura blew his golf match, and there goes that hope.
What happened today?
Ran into a buzzsaw. No, this was last week. Ran into a buzzsaw. B. Rossi was just. Sometimes you got to tip your cap when somebody comes out net 33 on you on the front 9. I mean,
33.
yeah, net
Yeah,
33
that was-
is not a whole lot to do about that.
Was this a putt-putt course?
No, net with his strokes. So he shot
Okay.
he shot a legit 38, getting 5, net 33. I mean,
tough to beat. Tough to beat.
You're not beating it.
There
And
was
then-
a great deal of zest in the relaying of the scores in real time to
Oh,
me
yeah, yeah.
while I was doing my morning activities.
We were all always
was-
hoping it could just become a match again, and it just
Yeah,
never
just couldn't.
could.
No. There's a great
Sad.
deal.
Yeah, it was very sad.
Sad.
It was a beating. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt.
Don't let me interrupt your show. You can go back to your
No,
regular
you were going to do a
scheduled
tease for our interview later.
Oh,
You
okay.
said something you were excited about.
When is it coming up?
4 o'clock.
Okay.
4 o'clock.
Coming up at 4 o'clock, new
Yeah.
Browns head coach Todd Monkin joins CBD. Among other things, he'll tell you why drinking soda makes you guys boring.
You
That's
will.
it.
That was a great
that's
bet.
true.
That was
that's
a good
great.
bet. That was a good
I'm
bet.
sorry, pop makes you guys boring.
That's
That's
right,
right.
Pop.
That's
Yeah,
right.
know the
Yes.
Midwest. Very good.
Also said that as well.
I believe that's a sound, not a beverage, but
I
That-
would-
I think that's
for
correct.
another
Yeah.
day.
Yes, but all my cousins growing up, all my
All pop.
East Side cousins was all pop,
Pop.
pop, pop, pop.
if we're really just going to get into this for a second, which I have no problem doing, but
Well, we do have a little bit of a
Pop-
tight.
I was gonna
we gotta
say-
tight- we got
Fine,
to
then
tight.
I'm just going to end the discussion.
You got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Pop comes from a soda pop.
Yes,
Soda pop,
I get
yeah.
it.
So the soda's the key.
I would agree with you that that's the critical.
That's the critical word.
Yeah, I would agree. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Coming up next, Jordan Reed, ESPN draft analyst, will join the program. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today, get 50 back in bonus bets. You place that first wager of 10 or more. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. And now our conversation with ESPN NFL draft analyst Jordan Reed. All right, joined now by
You're down.
draft college football analyst with the worldwide leader, Jordan Reed. We were talking before we got started. It's been years. You come on with us all the time, but this goes back 7, 8 years you've been coming on with us, man. Now you got a daily draft show. You got all this stuff. Life comes at you fast, man. It's good to see good things happen to good people.
I appreciate it, man. You make me feel old with all these
Imagine being
flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine
being
us. Yeah.
How old we feel,
Seriously.
man. There's an energy that happens over here that only happens in Indy. Whole league's here, kind of the only thing that the whole league kind of goes to. You've been coming here for a while now. What are things that when you're on your way this year that you're most looking forward to, just league-wide? Like, what were you curious about heading over here?
I think for me, you always want to talk about the quarterbacks. That's what everybody wants to know about, just exactly where these guys are going to go. with Fernando Mendoza, obviously you can put it in Sharpie that he's going to be the #1 overall pick to the Raiders. But after that, I think things get really interesting with Ty Simpson, depending on where he's going to go. Some people view him as a mid to late first-round pick, while there's others that are more comfortable taking him on day 2. But I think even though there's not a lot of blue-chip talent at the top of this year's draft, everybody's going to label it as a quote-unquote bad draft. I don't think there's ever a such thing as bad drafts. It just makes you work harder to find the talent. And I think this year's draft class, specifically on the defensive side, I think this defensive line class is loaded, and I think there's a lot of depth at linebacker and at DB.
When you look at these quarterbacks in this draft, we were here last year, and everyone's just wait for the 26th draft. You got Klubnik and Drew Aller and Beck and Nussmeier. Do any of those guys still intrigue you?
More so, and I'll say this, if you're looking for a starter in this year's class, this is not the class for you. But if you're looking for a developmental guy or somebody that you want to be a long-term backup, this is a great class for that. And you hit the nail on the head as far as some names. Drew Aller, a lot of people have forgotten about him.
Where do you think he goes?
I would say 3rd or 4th round. I think that's where he ends up going. It just depends on how comfortable you feel about him improving the inaccuracies that he has. The size is great. I mean, he's going to be 6'5", he's going to be 240 pounds, but he just doesn't have the consistent accuracy and showing up in big-time moments that you would love to see out of a, day 1 or day 2 potential player. So he's one. Garrett Nussmeier, you talked about him, LSU. If you look at a lot of those way too early mock drafts, including myself, he was seen as a first-round player. But I feel good about Nuss as far as being a long-term backup that potentially could be some more after that. I think there's some more layers to uncover with his development just because of the daredevil mentality that he plays with. He has that gunslinger mentality that you love to see. He's accurate to all 3 levels of the field as well. Even though the physical traits are not overwhelming, he does have some of those long-term backup traits that you want to see at the position. But one of my favorite dart throws in this year's class is Cole Payton, the quarterback out of North Dakota State. I thought he was really good down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Only been a 1-year starter there with the Bison, but something that really intrigues me about him is just the physical stature. He's going to come in 6'3", 235 pounds, but I think there's some more left to uncover with him.
When you look at a guy like Drew Aller in particular, and obviously, Cleveland ties, loves the Browns, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Had he played well against Notre Dame 2 years ago, he might have been drafted in the top 10.
Yeah.
And then so it falls here. How are you kind of, if somebody was looking at him and you say, okay, look, the clay's good, you see that. There are things you need to drill in, but how much do you look at what Penn State was doing on offense, the things he's had to deal with while at Penn State? How do you kind of factor those things in? Because it does feel like he's the one guy that we could look back in 5 years and be like, oh, he's got the tools that he could have been great. We should have seen it earlier.
I think the biggest reason is you have to figure out the why. Like, why did he never take that big leap that a lot of people wanted him to take? And is the inaccuracies associated with his mechanics, do you feel that it is improvable? Or why did it not improve over the course of his career? So just how comfortable, whether it's your quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, do you feel comfortable with trying to improve his mechanics? And then also, do you have the leeway to take on a project like that, just because he is a huge project whenever you're talking about correcting the mechanics of a quarterback? Well, from a physical trait standpoint, I think you can make a strong argument that he has the best physical traits of any quarterback in this class. It's just a matter of, is the accuracy actually improvable?
It's nothing we're going to be in on, and you said sharp yet, and that's the consensus that Mendoza's going 1. But I am just curious, where would you have him in comparison to some of the other #1 overall quarterbacks the last 4 or 5 years?
I actually do not like him as much as I did Cam Ward last year. I just don't see the physical traits like a Cam Ward that can withstand having poor surroundings. And we saw Cam have plenty of flashes last year. I just don't think Mendoza is capable of withstanding poor surroundings. And with Mendoza, you're going to hear the comps like Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff and some of those. Matt Ryan is another one that is frequently used. But the player that I wrote down as my comp for Mendoza was Sam Bradford. I think he is very reminiscent of Sam Bradford, somebody that was a #1 overall pick, that won the Heisman Trophy, stylistically supremely accurate, very smart. Even the personalities are eerily similar to me. And Sam was a really good player when he was healthy. He just didn't stay healthy throughout his career. But with Sam, you always needed those perfect surroundings in order to see his full potential. And I think that's what the Raiders are going to have to do with Mendoza.
What can we learn from the fact that the hottest free agent quarterback this year is Malik Willis, who went in the 3rd round. Coming out of Liberty, he had a lot of tools. I remember coming to after the combine, there would be, he's going to go in the
Absolutely.
top 10.
Yeah, for sure.
And then he goes in the 3rd round. Tennessee ultimately gives up on him. He goes to Green Bay and gets kind of with a very good offensive coach in LaFleur. And now he is going to be the top-paid free agent quarterback in the NFL this year, most likely. At least of the ones we know are free agents right now. Not counting if Kyler or however any of those things go down. What can we learn from that in this league?
It's just sometimes guys need time to develop, and they don't need to play very early on in his career. I always thought that Malik was going to be a project entering the league just because he had some inaccuracies that was associated with him specifically over the middle of the field. That is where he really struggled. And that's what you see a lot of times with these shorter quarterbacks throughout the league is that they really struggle over the middle of the field. And as a starter quarterback in the NFL, if you can't win over the middle of the field, you're not going to be a starter very long. So I think that was one of the biggest changes that he made as far as improving his accuracy was just his consistency over the middle of the field. And then also at Tennessee, he just didn't have great personnel. Outside of Derrick Henry, he didn't really have a lot of people to throw to outside of A.J. Brown during their time together. But he just wasn't ready to step into a situation where he needed to be the savior. But when he went to Green Bay, he found some coaches that were invested in him. He got to sit behind Jordan Love and really learn the intricacies of playing the position. And then when he went out there, he understood what it took to really be successful.
Yeah, it's an amazing story there. One of the positions that we certainly hope that we will be in on is at wide receiver. And we're going to have to draft a weapon. 3 picks in the top 40. How do you view the top end of this receiver class and then the second tier? How do you kind of see the gap there between those two, and who do you like most?
Well, I think there's a clear big 3 at the top, and you have Cardinal Tate, Mekhi Lemon, and Jordan Tyson. My favorite and my number 1 wide receiver in this class is Cardinal Tate. I just think he brings so many things to the position. He's a silky smooth route runner, doesn't drop anything. He can catch passes outside of his frame. He can dig the ball out if things are low. But he can run every branch on the route tree. And, I mean, you can go back and watch any game from last season. My personal favorite was Wisconsin. He had a catch in the back of the end zone that was just incredible in that one. But I think he's a high-end wide receiver, too, on the next level. The player that he personally reminds me of, he's not this caliber of prospect, but just talking about from a body type standpoint and the way he wins and plays the game is Devontae Smith. I see a lot of Devontae Smith in his game being that skinnier receiver that has outstanding hands. He can win down the field vertically, but also he can be a 3-level threat just because of how well he breaks down or he sinks his weight. He can snap off routes in the short to intermediate areas too. So Devontae Smith, Cardinal Tate is very reminiscent of Devontae Smith. And then after that, Jordan Tyson, depending on the medicals with him, he could find himself going in that mid to late first-round range. But after that, you have that second tier. That second tier consists of Omar Cooper out of Indiana, who's really catching steam here lately. Denzel Boston out of Washington, who I think is very underrated. A lot of people have been scared of that archetype just because it hasn't translated well, but I think he's a much better athlete than some of the players of that archetype or that stature that we have seen. And
what if he runs? What does he need to run, or what does he need to show agility-wise to make you say, okay, this guy could be a real X?
I think as long as he keeps it below like 4.52, 4.53, that range, I think I would be very comfortable.
If he runs
more
mid 4.4s, you'll be.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be completely sold on him. And he runs that low 4.5 on tape, but just his hand strength to catch the ball out of the air. That's something that really stands out about him. And in the offense that they want to run in Cleveland, they need that big body guy that can go down the field. But if they don't, like Boston, there's a real huge cluster of those types in this draft. I'm thinking of Malachi Fields at Notre Dame, Ted Hurst at Georgia State, Chris Brazzell at Tennessee, those big body guys that can win down the field and win when they climb the ladder to catch the football.
When you think about the Browns at 6 and 24 with their first 2 picks, if you were thinking, like, let's just say that those are going to be a receiver and a tackle or a tackle and a receiver, how do you see that shaking out in terms of the value prop? Would you want that receiver early and then a tackle, or is there a tackle that you say, man, this guy is so good, we got to get that tackle, and then we'll worry about the clump of receivers at 24?
I would want the receiver first, just because I think there's a clear big 3 right now with those 3 that we mentioned, and they may even have their pick of the litter, especially if those defensive ends come off of the board within that 2 to 5 range. With the Jets, the Cardinals, and the Titans, we could see 3 defensive linemen go 2, 3, 4 consecutively. Depending on what the Giants do, they could take a receiver, but if they do take one, you still have a chance of those big three at the top of the draft. So I would go receiver first. But the great thing about being at 24, I think that is right in the middle of the sweet spot of where we're going to see what I think 7 offensive tackles go in the first round. So speaking of Blake Miller at Clemson, I think he's firmly in that range. Max Iheanacho at Arizona State, he's one that's in that range. Monroe Freeland, depending on how he tests, I think he's probably going to test himself out of that range, but he's someone that could be in that target area. And Caden Proctor at Alabama, depending on how you feel about him.
It's going to be interesting because you're right. That's kind of what you're looking at here if you're the Browns. And then just when you're talking about these receivers and even this tackle class, how do you kind of stack these against recent classes? Like last year we loved Tet McMillan, then Ibuka was, I think, the next receiver off the board. How do you slot like Carnell Tate and that big three with those guys?
I don't think he's the caliber of receiver as those two. I love those two. In last year's class, I loved Tet and then I loved Emeka Ibuka. Those were such clean evaluations to me. So he would be a tier below those guys, in my honest opinion. And then this offensive tackle class, it would be a tier below last year's class, too. I don't think there's a Will Campbell or a Kelvin Banks or Armand Mimbu. I just don't see that type of talent in this year's class.
So would you be thinking maybe move out of 6 if that was the positions you were targeting? Because, maybe the top 6 guys, or maybe Downs is in that group, Jeremiah Love is in that group, and that's probably not the direction, or even a Sonny Styles. But off-ball, we just drafted Swessinger. We just drafted Judkins.
The issue with that, though, it takes 2 to tango. And I don't think there's a team that's going to be willing or rushing to trade up just because really the players, you select from really 5 all the way through 20 to 25 in this draft. They're all in the same bucket as far as like the grades that you have in this year's class. So that's why I think we're going to have a very status quo first round. I don't think a lot of teams are going to be willing to move around, one, for the reason that I just said, the lack of blue chip talent, but also teams know what's coming in 2027. They scout ahead. That is a quote-unquote loaded draft. They understand what's coming potentially in next year's class too.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. He is Jordan Reed. Watch him on NFL Draft Daily. Mel Kiper, Field Yates, Matt Miller, Louis Riddick, Mike Tannenbaum. It's an incredible show, folks, to lead you up. It's great to have you, buddy. Great to see you again. So happy for all your success. Thanks for your time.
Thank you guys as always for having me.
All right, coming up next, we will continue to stay in that worldwide leader realm, but the ESPN NFL analyst Benjamin Solak, he will join us coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly. All right, coming up here at the top of the hour, our conversation with Todd Monkin. Really great to see him. Some of the big headlines from the media availability for everybody that happened afterwards. Among the topics of conversation, obviously the quarterback room was heavy loaded in that. Among his comments on that, Shedeur Sanders has what it takes to be QB1, says he's a long way to go, but can make up ground. Hope that he can get Deshaun Watson back to an elite level. And then the quarterback competition, one of his big lines is, I don't pick the quarterback, I don't pick the players decide who plays.
Yep.
So that is this is the thing with Todd is this is blank slate for everybody. Every player on the roster.
Totally. It is a there are people that are going to have a lot of equity in terms of their performance that Todd already is earmarking for, big things. He tried to talk Joel Bitonio back, for example. Like, Joel Bitonio's role would be pretty set. He said, I tried to talk him into coming back last week, and unfortunately Bitonio did not, said he was not ready to make that kind of a decision. But, yeah, this is an opportunity to define your role for the 2026 Cleveland Browns. It's not what's happened in the past. I'm sure some of that it matters in terms of what your starting spot will be, but what your ending spot is going to be largely up to you and your performance and your work and how quickly you pick up this offense, how quickly you go and you show Todd Monkin that you're a guy that needs to be on the field for this team to be operating at its best.
Yeah, and it's I think that once his plan for that, which I'm sure was all part of the hiring process and everything, but I think that's going to be very fascinating how that's because you got to remember, what do we get, an extra 2 weeks of practice in the summer because of that?
Yeah, we'll get more time. We get to start. People come back for OTAs a little bit earlier, and then you'll get more time, and I think training camp gets to start a little bit earlier,
which you love.
Love that.
Love that.
Gibbe's all about it.
Get that sucker to start July 10th or something like that. Just get that.
You can go straight to hell.
All anybody needs is an 8-week training camp.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure. Number one, we're going to start earlier,
right?
With the off-season program,
right?
Like a couple weeks earlier,
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure we get a second mini camp, although it's not mandated. Mandatory is
New
still
coaches,
June, but there's another. You get an option for a second mini camp.
Yeah. So, he's going to have those opportunities to kind of get this ironed out. But it's all going to come back to quarterback and how that plays out. And the cool thing, I put myself in the shoes of Deshaun Watson, and you get that same blank slate, man. I mean, he hasn't played in a long time. Obviously missed all of last year. It's been a long time since we've seen him play, but now he's wants to prove that he can still do it. We all know Deshaun wants to play in the worst way, and so he's going to get a clean slate to see with Todd if he's got still some gas left in the tank.
Listen, this is an open. There is not anybody on this roster that you're saying right now you have to be our week one starter. There just isn't.
No.
There isn't a body of work within. For Deshaun Watson, there's nothing from 2020 on,
right,
or 2021 on. 2020 was the last time that he was a Pro Bowler. That says, okay, like you're just automatic coming off the injuries that he is. We saw flashes at times, and with Shedeur we saw flashes at times, but we also saw some good and some not so good. And so there's nobody that's just going to be handed that job, and so you are going to have a competition. And my guess is there will be somebody in this competition that we don't know about currently, right? It would just feels like it makes sense that they will add somebody to this room as it goes forward. What that looks like, I have no idea.
People are throwing stuff at the wall. I mean, we had this from Seth Walder today on ESPN that had Kyler playing for us. Projected 2026 starter, Cleveland Browns, Kyler Murray. So, who knows what could happen here? And that's the one thing that is a little – one thing I'm interested in by the time this week is over and you have a full kind of week here, I'm very curious to see like how that free agent trade cut quarterback availability looks like. I mean, that to me is going to be pretty fascinating.
Absolutely.
So, what does that look like? How big is that? How robust is that market? Is that market something that – do we have some answers to that are happening now? Like, what's the first domino that has to fall on that? Which actually makes our guest who's walking on with us here, Benjamin Solak. Your timing is good, my friend, from ESPN. It's great to meet you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Zagura over there. Good to see you,
man.
man.
Good to see you again.
We were just talking about, we were talking about some of the comments Todd Monkin made at open competition and all of that, Deshaun and Shedeur and all of that, and then kind of dovetail into a conversation about the quarterbacks on NFL rosters who could become available. We know the ones that aren't. I mean, Malik's going to be at the top of that, but how do the Arizona Cardinals eradicate themselves from Kyler? What does that look like? What happens in Miami with Tua? What do you sense as we are here at Combine Week, how these things are going to kind of shake out?
I think both are going to end up being released, which Kyler's cap hit is pretty big, but I think he's going to end up being released. Tua's cap hit is enormous. It'll be the biggest dead cap hit, over multiple years that we've seen taken in the NFL. But I just don't think that they're going to see enough trade interest to warrant moving the guys in that perspective, right? Because one of the things we have to remember is that I'm the Cardinals general manager. I come to ownership and I say, hey, we've got an offer, Kyler on the table. We have to eat some of his salary, but we get a 6th-round pick. Even if that's good business, the owner doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to draft the guy first overall. This guy's not going to do a big deal and trade him for a 6th-round pick. They'd rather just cut him, right? There's less egg on your face in that way than if you go and you get the day 3 pick while you're also taking on $30 million more in salary. And so we'll see. My expectations is they're both cut. When they get released, because of the way the contract structure works, you can then sign them on minimum style deals, and the Cardinals and the Dolphins end up paying out their salary instead out of that dead cap, and so they become guys who can kind of pick their spots, right? It's less of like a bidding war like it might be with Malik Willis, and more of a situational, where do they want to end up and what's the best environment for them. And that's where I think the Browns have, I think, a challenge relative to some of these other teams, right? Where I think the Steelers get to point to a DK Metcalf and to their offensive line, and the Vikings get to point to their offensive line and Justin Jefferson and say, look at our environment, we can develop a quarterback here. And then the Browns are going to have, potentially 5 new starters on the offensive line. And that's a harder sell for saying, hey, you're going to be able to rehabilitate your career here because the offensive nucleus isn't nearly as well known. So that's the challenge for Cleveland.
Is Kyler regarded as, Malik Willis is the top free agent, obviously.
Yep.
Are those two kind of the two that really you feel like could move the needle if you got them and got the best out of them?
Yeah, I would put Kyler comfortably above that with Malik, just because, Malik, man, it's looked good when it's looked good. He's started 6 games in 4 years, right? I mean, we have to emphasize here, this is an extremely low number of starts, a small sample we have to evaluate. If you go and you look at the history of guys who were drafted, first 3 rounds, started fewer than 10 games, but then signed a big second contract, there's not a lot of guys, and it's not a good history. It's Kevin Cobb with the Cardinals. That contract lasted like 2 years. Brock Osweiler with the Texans. Browns fans know all about how that contract went, right? And then it's Jimmy Garoppolo, who critically got traded to the 49ers and then played a few games and then signed his deal. So they at least had seen him in the offense. But even then, they made him the highest paid quarterback in football. And I think that while they obviously got to attend a Super Bowl, still we all kind of knew the score on Jimmy, what he was for that offense. And so Malik, with this few starts, you are really in uncharted waters. I think Kyler, who, this is the lowest Kyler stock has been, and the Cardinals are moving on, but still, Kyler's a player who can be impactful outside of structure. We've seen him work really well in structure for some of these spread and collegiate-style offenses under Cliff Kingsbury, which we know Todd Monkin's got some college background to him, and can he do some of that RPO stuff? He coached for Lamar, so there's some similar quarterback run stuff there. Kyler, to me, we're all, this is the lowest his stock has been, but we are all underappreciating that he can be like an impactful player.
No
he can
doubt.
Be a player.
Yes.
Relative to
No
he gets lumped in with Tua and Malik, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there's this guy, and then there's the next tier, which is those guys. Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. He was number 1 overall. So then for him, what do you think that market looks like once there is a release? What are the
Or what would you be earmarked
your
for him?
pecking order there?
So my guess is going to be that he wants to end up in Minnesota because everybody wants to end up in Minnesota, right? I would say the prevailing thought in the league is that Kevin O'Connell is an excellent quarterback developer, that they've done the right stuff to develop a quarterback, and they just had the wrong dude in the building, right, with JJ. And obviously he had the injuries, and there was a lot that went down that way, and obviously Minnesota's had a very odd fallout in terms of their front office. But in general, I would say that the prevailing thought in the league is Minnesota's the spot to be for quarterback development. So to me, that's where Kyler will want to end up. Does O'Connell want a sub-6-foot quarterback who isn't necessarily a pocket passer relative to how he's been successful in his career? He had Kirk and he had Sam. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure that Kyler is the sort of disposition and play style that he's going to like. So then you go to Pittsburgh, and you have to ask the same question about Mike McCarthy, who coached for Aaron Rodgers and Dak, and they haven't worked as much with these mobile quarterbacks before. And so I think Kyler's list will start with those 2 spots because I think those are the best environments for quarterback development for the teams that we expect to really need quarterbacks. After that, now it becomes when I go to Cleveland, am I guaranteed to have the job? Versus if I end up in Miami, am I guaranteed to have the job over Quinn Ewers, right? These guys are trying to rehabilitate their careers, likely on, he's likely to be on a 1-year deal, trying to then, get a Sam Darnold payday, get a Daniel Jones payday off one good season. And so you have to know you're going to walk in and have 17 games. And again, it's going to be a challenge for Cleveland with their quarterback room loaded with guys who have played, who have had investment from the front office at some point before, to some of these other teams that might just be clean slating and just giving Kyler, full reign over one season.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating because if you're a team that is looking for a quarterback, obviously for the Browns, you talked about Deshaun and Shador and Dylan Gabriel, you'd need somebody to really take a leap in-house based on what you've seen in the past. But it's really a one quarterback draft. Now, some people are liking Ty Simpson, but Mendoza's going to go one. There really aren't a whole lot of options for teams that are looking for that guy. Now, maybe somebody, I think it would take at least a 2 to get Mac Jones for the Niners to even entertain the notion. And
I agree.
You saw him with Kyle, and Kyle's been a good rehabilitator, and also people play really well with Kyle. And Kyle's a factor in that. You don't get to bring Kyle with Mac Jones. So it really is an interesting year in how teams are going to kind of approach this. And then you have guys out there like, Geno Smith will be, I would guess, available. Kirk Cousins, who actually played pretty well at the end of last year, available. Atlanta, to me, is an interesting one because I don't think that you're saying, okay, we're just handing the keys over to Michael Penix. Bijan.
Stefanski has very emphatically, when given the opportunity, be like, Michael Penix is our guy, has not done so. And he's not doing it in a way of like, this is an open competition, come play quarterback. But they've given him a chance to be like, hey, Michael Penix moving forward, and he is sidestepping it, which to me, pretty clearly they want to add somebody else to the room.
Could that be an interesting spot for Kyler?
Yeah. That's actually, because of what he did with Baker, and there's some stylistic similarities there. That's one I hadn't thought of before, but actually I like that idea a lot. I'm going to ask some people about that. But yeah, no, I very much, the tree you're barking up right now, which is, hey, after Mendoza, there's very little guys in the draft. Who can we go and get kind of in the veteran market, but then also in the trade market? That, to me, is the big question right now, because there's a lot of guys who are quarterback 2s on their teams right now who have had opportunities, or they're young guys, and they're still cost controlled, who just for whatever reason, Anthony Richardson lost a job to Daniel Jones, but this is still, high physical tools. He was an inexperienced player. Guys want to develop him. Spencer Rattler had a nice September and October with the Saints. He improved year 1 to year 2. It's just that new coaching staff had invested in Tyler Shuck. He was their guy, and they put him in there when he was ready. Tanner McKee has looked good with the Eagles. Will Levis with the Titans. Even if Levis at the Titans, his film, his starts, they were not that great. They were whatever. But teams are going to look at their pre-draft grade on Will Levis, and then they're going to look at their draft grades that they have on Garrett Nussmeier and Carson Beck and some of these quarterback 3s and quarterback 4s in this draft. They're going to say, man, we liked Levis better 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Why would we spend a 4th-round pick on this guy? We go trade the 4th-round pick to the Titans, get him, and you don't have as many years of team control, but you had a higher grade on that player. And that's really the caliber of quarterback class we're dealing with right now. We're quarterback 3, quarterback 4, 5 in this group are really, really low on teams' boards. And so that's going to invite, I think, some trades for some younger players over the course of the league, some dart throws, and some guys who are QB2 right now.
Well, it also, we just watched Darnold, so everyone's going to want, can we pull a Darnold?
Yeah.
Can we, it's copycat league, so everyone's trying for that.
Yep.
When you think of the wide receiver position in this draft, and we've had kind of varying views, we've talked to a lot of people already about, what's just your take on the wide receivers in the draft?
Yeah, when I remember it was the Drake London class, so that would have been 2020 or something like that, 2021. I wrote a piece that was, there's never going to be a bad wide receiver class ever again, and I still feel that way for the rest of time. We've gotten so good at developing these receivers, right? Because 20 years ago, college programs could not throw the football. But there were no college quarterbacks. They couldn't. It was all running games, all QB run, and then RPOs and 7-on-7 football really helped develop quarterbacks and receivers, and now every team, you go to Coastal Carolina, you find 2 draftable receivers. There's just guys on guys on guys in different body types, right? We have 5'10", $170 receivers now running around. Zach Branch for Georgia scoring touchdowns. This guy's my size. We've expanded how many receivers really work at the college level and so the NFL level. And so this wide receiver class to me is a below average group relative to past receiver classes. I think if you put the top of this class up against 2024 with Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze and Marvin Harrison, I think all of these guys get drafted after those guys. But I don't think there's such thing as a bad wide receiver class anymore. Excuse me. There's always going to be a couple speed threats. There's always going to be some size guys who win down the field. There's always going to be some slot options. We've just gotten too good at throwing the football to look at a class and be oh, there's nobody in this class. Running back this year, very thin class, not a great class. Tight end this year, not a great class. Wide receiver, there's still 15, 20 dudes who can impact the NFL level. We have too many bodies for there to be a wide receiver class that's objectively bad ever again.
Yeah, and the thing that's tricky with that is you're sitting there at 6, and the one thing that we've got a consensus on here in 2 days is no one is trading out of 27.
Yeah.
No one's giving up a 27-1. That ain't happening. Yep. So it feels like that there's not going to be a lot of movement maybe in this first round because of that. And so you're sitting there at 6, and maybe it's a blow, but if Carnell Tate, or I don't know who you have as your favorite, but if that guy's there and you're the Browns and you desperately need weaponry, this is the question about team building that Andrew Berry's going to have to answer.
Yep, and I think that you have heard from a lot of analysts like me say, you can build your wide receiver room in the middle rounds of the draft and get different body types and whatever. But I think Browns fans would be very realistically okay, we've heard that for 6 years, and we'd really like to just have one guy who's very good at all 3 levels, who's a wide receiver 1. Yeah. And so it's an understandable feeling to say, let's just go get Carnell Tate and solve the problem. Tate is my number 1. I think that he's an excellent wide receiver. I think he's going to be a great pro. He was wide receiver 2 for Ohio State behind Jeremiah Smith. Like, he's a very solid wide receiver prospect. He's a great wide receiver prospect. But this is not a, slam the brakes, halt the team building. We need to go get this individual sort of a player to me. And so if he's on the board and Caleb Downs on the board, it's not a thought to me. I'm going to get Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is a blue chip player for me, and Carnell Tate isn't. But you're at a point where, in the modern NFL, if you're going to develop a quarterback, you need to have a guy who can catch the football, and then you need to have another one, and then you need to have another one.
Right,
This is how we need to be able to spread the football out. And so you have your Harold Fannin Jr. so freaking good, and you have your Jerry Jeudy who can play a role for you. You do need another player at wide receiver for the Browns who can be a three-down player, right? Like, you'd love for Sed Tillman to have taken that step. You didn't necessarily see it. Like, you got to get this guy. And so if they invest that way at 6, I'll say, oh, man, I wish they would have taken Downs or Sonny Styles or some of these other blue-chip guys. But I'll understand it. I understand it for sure.
Yeah, we need Isaiah Bond to pop, too, because he's got some speed. He's got some juice to him. That could be in 11, all of a sudden you're saying Tate, Jeudy, Bond, Fannin, Judkins. Like, oh, okay, that's somewhat interesting. What about the trade market there? Because I thought it was very interesting Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia side, they said, no, A.J. Brown's not a guarantee A.J. Brown's going to be an Eagle this year. So that perks my ears up. DJ Moore is somebody that we've heard whispers around, maybe coming out of Chicago. How do you see that receiver trade market? Because those guys are more proven and have produced at a higher level in the NFL than maybe you project some of these guys in this class.
Yeah. A.J. still is so good, right?
I agree.
And I think that a lot of A.J.'s bad film this year is the case of some disinterest and some frustration and some, personal choices as opposed to, athletic fall off. I do think he's beyond his prime a little bit, but still, 220 pounds is 220 pounds. It's, he's hard to tackle. He's hard to bring down. And so AJ, I would expect if he lands on a new team, is going to be very motivated to make a point about the fact that he's still one of the league's best. And I think you're going to get a couple good years of really good AJ Brown. I think that's still in him. My guess is the Eagles are going to have to trade him because he is going to cause a stink until he is traded. And the way that contract is structured, it's going to cost a lot for them to trade him. They don't want to do it. He's still a very talented player, but I think they're going to, it's coming to brass tacks, and they're going to have to do it. That trade, though, because the way that deal is built, does not happen until July, August, right? Because of when
has to be post June 1st.
Yeah, and when Roseman has these automatic kickers in for the restructure they all happen in like August, right after 53 cut downs before the regular season starts. So they're going to take this thing all the way to the margin, which means that if you want AJ Brown, you have to go through the free agency and go through the draft thinking to yourself, all right, we're going to go get AJ, and what are you going to do? Just not build a receiver room? Like, and walk into August with no major needs? So that's the tricky thing, is that because that trade's not going to get done until actually, like, in the summer, if not later, then you do have to have a plan B in place where there's going to be my wide receiver if I can't get AJ, and then I'm going to go try to get AJ. But I think it would be a good move for the Browns if they did.
Benjamin, great talking to you, man.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you so much for the time. That was great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, fellas.
We'll have much more, including your head coach, your Cleveland Browns, Todd Monkin, on the other side of this quick timeout. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Valley Bet, official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Become a season ticket member today. Join us Huntington Bank Field for all home games this season. Visit Browns.com/tickets now. And now our conversation with your head coach, Todd Monkin. Joined by
You're down.
end of the hour, Todd Monkin. Good to see you, man. It's good to see you. What has this been like? You're one of 32. The whole league's here. In terms of when you've come before and now as the head man.
Well, it's really cool. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And obviously, we talked about it earlier. You're in every meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, so you don't just get the offensive players. You have the defensive players and any of the specialists. But it's been great.
When you come here, is there stuff just like that head coaches have to do as well? Are there like head coach meetings or anything like that in addition to everything you're doing for the Browns? Are there like get all the coaches
Stuff
together?
I'm doing right now with you.
Oh, yeah, you're with us. Yeah.
I didn't have to do this
Luminary.
before.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to do this now. So other than that, not really, other than being in all of the meetings,
Yeah.
as far as I know. Peter will get me in the right spot, though, wherever I've got to get to.
He
so.
always will. Are you enjoying, we've talked so many times, obviously, since it's kind of been a whirlwind, but now that you're away from that, other than these moments with us, that you're now here, you're going to do the podium, but just here to go kind of put this football team together. You got your staff together, and now it's about finding the right guys to be Cleveland Browns.
No, it's exactly right. I anticipate within the next couple of days we'll have the staff finalized, be able to start up on Monday football, talking football in the mornings and doing personnel in the afternoons. But, no, I'm excited to build the roster together with Andrew. It's going to be fun.
You also have such a unique experience, Coach, in that you were in the college game very recently. When you're at Georgia, you recruit the best players in the country. So some of those guys are kids that you probably had some relationships with from all those years ago. So, like, in terms of your expertise at that level, I have to imagine you're seeing familiar names and faces from that time.
For sure. We're getting closer to where there's not as many of those
Sure.
players. I mean, obviously Carson Beck, who I had at Georgia for 3 years. I mean, he's been in college football 6 years.
Right,
So,
yeah.
and then Oscar Delp, who's a tight end, was there. So there's a number of guys that you would have either recruited, Ty Simpson, Nussmeier's,
Yeah.
kid, all those guys. So, but it's getting a little further and further away from when I was there. But, no, it's been fun.
We were talking earlier with Glenn Cook about the change in now with NIL and how you have guys that are going from one school to another school to a third school. And we were saying that maybe is helpful. Number one, you understand how guys are when they get paid because, right, some of these guys, especially at the big programs, they can make 7 figures, in college. But two, you get a sense of how quickly can somebody come into a new scheme because you're getting guys who play in 3 schemes in 3 years now. How quickly can they come to a new scheme and maybe adapt to what we want to do here?
Sure, I think there's a part of that. But ultimately, it does come down to they love football.
Yep.
I mean, are they about the money or are they about football? It's all part of it, but you've got to really enjoy playing the game. Eventually, you're going to get paid, but you only have such a short window to be at your best. And the money is a byproduct of how you play. I mean, it's not given to you anymore the way the draft is. You make good money early, but it's getting that second contract, possibly a third contract, and the only way you get there is by being an elite football player.
How do you like to assess someone's love of football?
It's not really how I assess it when it's someone for the draft. It's what others say about them.
Okay.
I mean, we can have a 20-minute meeting and try to drill down how they're wired, but ultimately, and I've said this many times, you've got to vet a number of people that are around them every day. What do they like every day? What do they like around their teammates? What kind of work do they put in? I say it all the time. I mean, if you want to find out what kind of husband I am, you have to ask my wife.
That's right.
I mean, on the right days, right?
Yeah.
But I could say whatever the hell I felt like saying, and or what kind of father I am, you have to ask my son. I mean, you got to drill down to the people that have been around them all the time to really find out what their core makeup is.
Are there non-negotiables for you as you go to putting this team together through free agency, draft, everything, as you and AB are putting this stuff together? Are there certain characteristics that for you, if you don't have this, non-negotiable can't be a Cleveland Brown?
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I don't think you would take anybody off the board that's a non-negotiable. Now, there's flags and there's red flags.
Sure.
I mean, and you just have to measure, the value of that player based on the flags or the red flags that have popped up. And all you have to do is go back to years ago, and it's Randy Moss, right?
Yeah.
And there were flags, and you don't want to go beyond that. I'm sure there were teams that took him off the board and have regretted it ever since. So I don't think there's ever a player that you wouldn't consider. There's just levels of, as we said, and there's not non-negotiables, but there's certainly flags.
For you, as you said, you're in all the meetings now. When's the last time you scouted defensive players or tried to get a conceptualize in your mind if this is a defensive player you wanted on your roster?
It's interesting because even in college, it used to be you recruited every position. You had an area, you recruited all the positions. But as it went further along with social media, recruiting services, when I got back to Georgia, you just recruited your position. And when I was there as a coordinator, I recruited quarterbacks and offensive personnel. I had an area, but it was local, so there wasn't a lot of – you weren't watching defensive film. You weren't evaluating defensive players. But luckily, growing up or in the profession in college, and you had areas a long time ago, you had to learn how to evaluate all position groups and be able to bring them to the table of players that you'd recommend.
Well, I'd imagine through your lens as an offensive coordinator, there are certain things about defensive players at each position that annoyed you or that made you thought life more difficult. And I would think that would be that's kind of a good starting off point, right? Jumping off point of, when edge rushers can do this, that gave our offense a lot of problems. So I would imagine they give other people's offenses a lot of problems.
No, that's for sure. It's just where you fall short a little bit is the comparison. How do you compare one player from a few years ago to another?
Sure.
I'll give an example. Like when I was at Georgia, I thought our best player in 2022 was Nakobe Dean or 2021.
Linebacker.
And he was probably arguably our best defensive player, our best leader. Now, does that equate to the NFL? Does his game translate? Just like maybe a high school player that you're recruiting to come to Georgia, maybe the best offensive lineman at school A might be the 6'2", 225-pound tough, loves football, but his measurable skill set does not translate. So you have to filter through that a little bit as to what their measurable skill sets are and how that translates.
No details needed necessarily, but just as you guys are putting together this off-season plan, and now we're kind of all here, all of football's here, staff's here, everybody's meeting, then you got the free agency, you got all of the way that all of this goes out. What is that process like with you and AB in terms of laying out that timeline, the roster build here over the next 2 months?
Well, it's already started. I mean, that's really, besides getting a staff together, it now becomes the main focus is our roster. With actually football schematically being secondary. It's a part of it, but the most important part is putting the pieces in place to give us the best chance to win every Sunday. And it starts with your players. I said that when I got the job, it starts with the players. I took the job because of players, and it's hard to win without talent. And so I'm looking forward to helping us build that roster, be it through free agency or the draft.
AB talked about this yesterday at the podium, Dom Capers. Why was it important for you to bring in somebody who's been a head coach in the league, senior defensive assistant? You're a first-time head coach in the NFL. Obviously, you coached at Southern Miss. Rudy is your defense coordinator. First time he's been a defense coordinator. Why was it important to bring somebody like Dom Capers in?
Well, we're excited to bring Dom in. I think he adds, everybody knows his background, and it's easy to, if you don't, to look it up. So, but I thought it was really important first off for Rudy. Rudy had been with him previously, felt very comfortable with him, what he would bring to the table in terms of a first-time defensive coordinator and play caller. And then I also thought it'd be an advantage for myself, being a first-time head coach, be able to run some things by him. And so I think we couldn't be luckier to have him with us and starting on Monday.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's just so cool to be in this spot and to be over here at the Combine. And I imagine, obviously this was why you got back into it, why you went to the Ravens to get this opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. Now you're one of 32, and now you're on this treadmill that's going full speed ahead, headed towards the draft. It's got to be, in a way, everything you've always dreamed of, to be able to be in this spot, and it's got to be so cool.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you got to remind yourself a little bit.
Have you had
that
that
you're one of
moment?
32.
Have you had that
No,
moment?
I think I told John Harbaugh that when we were talking, and I wasn't going to be going to the Giants with him, and we had a great conversation. I said, I think when it'll really hit me is when we're at the owners' meeting or whatever the hell that is, and they take the picture.
The picture.
Of
this
the
is the
32
picture.
coaches to where, you're actually one of the 32. Everything you've worked for. to me, I think that's when it'll hit you. But right now, you're so immersed in the day-to-day of getting a staff together, getting ready for free agency and the draft that there's no time to even think about it. It's like any job that you take. They're all cool as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's my first job at Grand Valley State, and once you get started, you don't even have time to think about, man, I'm a college football coach, or your first Division I coaching job. You're like, holy cow, I'm in Division I football. Or then you become a head coach at Southern Miss, or you get to the NFL for the first time. Every one of those steps, just like in life, are really cool, but you don't have a time to even appreciate it till you're done.
Yeah.
And like anything in life.
You've been coaching 37 years. When you come here, this is everybody in the NFL world, descends on Indianapolis for this combine. What's it been like just kind of walking around, seeing your peers and seeing the guys that you've either coached with at some point and their reaction to you doing this? Because I can tell you, we go around and we connect with a lot of people, and people are pumped for you. Like, you've made, obviously, a very good impression on a lot of people around this league.
Well, first of all, it's really cool how big this has gotten. I mean, first of all, coaching staffs have gotten bigger.
Yep.
Scouting departments have gotten bigger. Media departments have gotten bigger. This has grown to where it's you can't even, I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of attention that it gets.
Sure.
And the NFL does a great job of spreading out the year.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like there's something every month. I mean, it's ingenious, whether it's the Super Bowl, the Pro Bowl, and then you get into what it would be is like the combine, then it's free agency, then it's the draft, then it's OTAs, then it's the schedule comes out. It's like something every month
Oh, yeah.
that keeps you glued in.
There's no off season.
No,
There's
there
no
really
talk about
isn't.
it. No.
Eventually we'll be playing 28 games and you'll have 2 weeks off. We'll be playing every weekend. There'll be 2 seasons, right? And they'll meet somewhere in between. So, but it's really cool.
Yeah, it is, and it's one of those things that there will be all these touchdowns that happen, the first combine, all these things that happen, and then all of the work has to happen too. And the other thing that is really cool is you talk about how big all of this gotten. Small world though. You think of the familiar faces that you see, staffs, guys you worked with. That John Harbaugh, seeing him, I saw him yesterday in Giants gear.
Oh, yeah,
this
it's wild.
This is crazy, man. How small the world can be too.
No, if you'd asked me a year ago that he'd be the head coach of the Giants and I was going to be the head coach of the Browns, I mean, there's no chance in hell I would have. Because I don't even know what the FanDuel, not that I gamble, I can't say that. I don't know what the FanDuel odds would have been that Jesse Minter will be the head coach of the Ravens, John Harbaugh will be the Giants, and Todd Monkin's going to be the head coach of the Browns. Throw $10 on that. Someone can retire.
What a nice parlay.
I mean, it's a hell of a parlay there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, I wouldn't. But that's what we do,
Yeah.
right? We're in a profession where results are expected, and that's the fun of it. That's the fun of it, the challenge of it, and I'm excited.
What are you hoping when you get back in the car, head back to Cleveland? What are you hoping to have accomplished this week in Indy? Other than eating some Elmo's shrimp cocktail.
I think as much as anything, when we get back, which is probably a couple of the most important items, will be one, the medical results we'll get back on the players,
Yep.
right, that are here. That'll give you a little bit more clarity in terms of where you see them from a physical standpoint. I think that's because the film is what the film is. That's
Yep.
Yeah.
and it's a 20-minute meeting, and they go out there in shorts and run around. But it's really the film is what matters most. Okay, to me that's the most, because you get the lay of the land in terms of
Sure.
free agency. You get to figure out the medical part pieces, which is all you're trying to do is to shrink. Let's just talk about the draft and free agency. You're just trying to shrink the margin for error.
Yep.
You're never going to be perfect. You never know for sure. You're just trying to do as much research as you can, and then whether it's free agency or whether it's the draft, let it rip. I mean, and then we got to develop the hell out of them and utilize their skill set.
Do you have any traditions when you come to Indy? Like, do you go to Elmo's, get the cocktail? Or is that
Actually, crazy enough, I was like looking around, like, could I fit dinner in there somewhere? Tonight, Travis Schweitzer and I are going to go to St. Elmo's,
Okay.
dinner for two, a lovely couple at St. Elmo's for a shrimp cocktail. A lot of the traditions have ended since I stopped drinking. I mean,
Sure.
once you stop drinking, some of the traditions end.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
There's
I'm
the
tired.
component.
I'm tired by 9 or 10 o'clock, and I'm ready for bed. And I mean, people better get me early. I don't say that because of old age. Like, I'm not trying to say because my ass is old. I'm just saying because I don't drink anymore, and the nights go by faster. It's like it used to be, and like if you go for happy hour, right?
Sure. Yeah.
5 o'clock, you're sitting there, and the night can go by so fast if you're drinking.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, hey, you're buying rounds, you're having fun, you're telling stories. Hell, there's only so many Diet Cokes you can drink. I mean, there's so many waters. It's like 8 or 8:30. You're like, are we ready?
Yeah, that's it.
And nobody seems as much fun anymore. You know what I'm saying? My wife's not as much fun. People around aren't as much fun. They seem kind of goofy. I'm like, God, was I like that? Good times. It is great, though, seeing people. I still say that. Take all that out of it. It's the last thing we have as an organization that's close to a convention.
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody really goes to Senior Bowl anymore. And, I mean, as much as we enjoy the competitive nature of the sport and the tactical part of it, to me, still life is about relationships.
Yeah, there's
it's about
camaraderie.
people. It's like seeing you before the game.
Yeah.
It's like seeing players. It's like seeing guys you've coached with and going to lunch and just seeing them. And to me, that's what makes life worth living is people. And that's what's really cool about this is getting to see people.
Well, it is dang cool to see
Great
you as the
seeing
head
you.
coach
That's
of
right.
the Cleveland Browns, sir.
I appreciate
Great
it,
to see you,
gentlemen.
buddy.
Yeah.
You
Great
bet.
to see you.
So fun.
So fun. Yeah, it was fun.
It's just he's so relatable because
He is,
he's just a real guy who happens to be a darn good football coach and is now the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And I think that's what is exciting as we go through this, and there are going to be good times, there are going to be bad times, there's going to be ups, downs, there's adversity as seasons are long. And, could it turn around in 1 year? Absolutely. You see that happen all the time in the NFL. That's going to take very good quarterback play and, Deshaun or Shador or Dylan to really do that. But, you're turning a tanker out in the middle of the ocean, right?
That's it.
It takes some time, but once you get the momentum going, it can happen a lot quicker. And I think when you look at this, what he's going to do and what you hope that he's going to be able to do is get the most out of our offense. And, I was talking with a lot of people from around the league last night are just like, listen, if you guys can just be a top half of the league offense, I'm talking 15, 16.
Yeah.
You guys can win a lot of games. You can challenge
sure.
for this division. So that's really that's where we're trying to get. You want to get obviously better than that and better than that every year going on, but that's where you're trying to get it, and Todd Monkin's going to be the guy to hopefully lead us there.
You mentioned the relatability part of it. He has worked for this only his whole life.
Only his whole
And
life.
today was the day where he got to be one of 32 and look around and see people, and it's cool, man. He's an easy route.
I just like that he's like, I'm excited. The owners' meeting, when I sit in the picture,
yeah.
that's when it's going to be.
That was a great line.
That's going to be real.
That was a great line, man. He's put in the work. One of the guys who a lot of the folks over here rely on from an evaluation standpoint is our great friend Dane Brugler. He will join us coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
in Indianapolis. All right, back on the combine here in Indianapolis. So you're pointing at me. That means go.
I was telling you, like, he asked, are you ready?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I noticed.
Well, how would I have heard?
He asked you down the line, are you ready?
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
That's
No,
why I've got you.
Kevin, you were fine. Kevin, you were fine.
I don't hear.
Two-thirds of
I
us
don't
were on
hear.
the same
Maybe
page.
is he in my ear?
Yes. Did you?
Let's hear it.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that
So
I
was
heard.
that return? Your return wasn't up loud enough. Oh, because earlier we blew your eardrums out. I'm not sorry.
Exonerated. Exonerated.
I'm not exonerating.
No, I'm exonerated. Earlier we caught up with Dane Brugler. This is always one of the treats of the combine. Take a listen.
Well, there are certain
You're down.
do when you get to Indianapolis and the NFL scouting combine. You're going to have to go to St. Elmo's. Probably want to do that. Might want to go to Prime.
Tonight.
Might want to go to Harry and
Also
Izzy's. Those
tonight.
type of things. You might want to complain about the roads in Indiana. That's something I like to do.
Love to do.
But you must talk to Dane Brugler. And he joins us now, the author of The Beast and the Best in the Business. I can't believe we're here again, buddy. You blink, and here we are.
It felt like just a couple weeks ago we were here a year ago talking about all the players and Shedeur Sanders and all, and here we are a year later. How much has changed? All the things that have happened with this organization. Obviously, new coaching staff. You just kind of wonder what direction they're going to head in this offseason at certain positions. So yeah, there's a lot that we need to figure out.
Yeah, the other thing that's pretty crazy, you mentioned that change, is I remember a year ago at this time, everybody saying, wait till 2026 on quarterbacks.
Let me tell you
And
about
now here we
2027.
are.
Let me tell you about it.
27 is where it's at. But
It's looking
like,
pretty good.
It's like Mendoza. It's amazing, though. Like, you have this in your head. Get to 26, and it's going to be Klubnik and Aller, and all these guys are going to be in there. And now none of those guys are up there. Mendoza is likely going to go
Was
one.
not even mentioned.
It just tells you, like, how much this game and perception of players can change in a year.
And look, these things are cyclical usually. So, we had the off year, last year where a lot of teams saw it as a one quarterback draft. Cam Ward, he's going to be the number one overall pick. And so it's like, okay, this year will be different. And really it was Arch Manning, Drew Aller. I think those two guys, thinking about what they could be. And I still think of Arch, if he would have declared, I think he's going number one in this draft. Maybe the way Mendoza finished, it'd at least be a discussion at one. But now the way things played out, Manning's going back to school. Aller had the injury, and he wasn't playing great before that injury happened. And unfortunately for him, he didn't have the second half to his senior year to kind of right the ship. And, he's a Brown season ticket holder, so, you hate that for him. I think his dog's name is Ozzie, after Ozzie Newsome. So, this quarterback class didn't really play out the way we thought.
By the way, Gibbe does not care if people are Browns fans or not. So don't tell Gibbe all these fun facts. He almost punched me at dinner last night.
He did. He almost did. He got very aggressive. Very aggressive.
I mean, I'll try to work.
I thought it was a nice fact.
I'll try to work in a Bowling Green fact, but they just don't have players. So that's
jeez.
I'll try.
Oh my goodness! Corner has been called right here.
Harold Fannon's gone. But yeah, this is we're looking at this draft. It's kind of a one quarterback draft, and it's a very light draft for quarterbacks and running backs, which is rare. Usually, sometimes it's light in one position, not the other.
Yeah.
But it's for both quarterback and running back to be light. Like right now in my top 100, I only have 6 combined at those two positions, 3 each. We've never seen fewer than double digits combined at those two positions drafted top 100 since '85. Before I was born. So it's something where it's just a unique draft where every draft has its own identity. And one of the talking points, one of the themes of this draft is how light it is at quarterback and running back, especially at the top.
Let's talk about, because you know this team very well, and you talked about the changes and what influence, and I think there will be substantial influence that Todd Monkin has. Certainly, it's been clearly stated the Browns are going to be looking at offense early in this draft, which is music to our ears. We've been banging that drum for quite some time. Weapons, 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 weapons. When you look at it and kind of put your GM hat on for the Browns, and as you see this draft, let's just talk strategy.
Yeah.
You got 6, 24, 39. How would you want to allocate those picks? Let's say, and I think we're likely living in an offensive line receiver world, but as you see kind of the clusters and the clumps and the tiers, how would you be thinking about 6, then 24, then 39?
If I'm taking a wide receiver at 6, you better love him. You better believe he is going to be your number one guy moving forward, because there's no guarantee one of those tackles is going to be there at 24. So if I'm okay taking a receiver at 6, you just better have conviction that this is going to be a game changer for us.
Do you have conviction about any receiver in this draft?
Not to the level of, Malik Neighbors and, some of these other receivers we've seen come out in the past where this is clearly a guy. This clearly transforms our offense. Now, I really like Carnell Tate from Ohio State. I think that he brings a really interesting balance of both precision in terms of his route running, but also a my ball mentality where he can stretch it out and go win down the field. I think he was 12 of 14 on contested catches this year, like just unbelievable. 9 catches of 40+ yards. And he was never the number one on his team. He was behind J.J. Smith and Emeka Egbuka last year and all that. So Tate, a big believer in. An interesting part of this now is, so I reported last night, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver at Arizona State, not going to be doing anything here at the Combine.
Right, so that hammy.
That hamstring's still bothering him. What's the concern with, because the tape shows a top 10, 12 pick in this draft. But what's the worry? It's the durability. Can he stay healthy? And so not being able to be here at the Combine and give a full workout, testing, positional stuff, that's something that could affect his draft stock. And now, will he be able to do it at the pro day? That'll be the next question. And if he's not, all of a sudden, while that's unfortunate, if you're a team like the Browns, picking at 24, you're like, okay. I mean, that's not the worst thing. Maybe we have a chance at him now at 24, where if he was fully healthy, we wouldn't. Because, again, the biggest question with him is just the durability. He missed, I think, 34% of his team's games the last 4 years. So it's as long as your medical team gives you 2 thumbs up and says, look, it's the hamstring's a little tender right now. The knee from his knee injury a couple years ago is okay. As long as the medical team gives you 2 thumbs up, I think that you're looking at Jordan Tyson as a possibility now at 24, and someone that maybe you thought you'd have to get him at 6. Now you might be able to get him a little bit later.
Just to tie the bow on Tate, where do you see Tate relative to Tet McMillan last year?
I had higher grade on McMillan. So just behind him, not a huge discrepancy, but McMillan was just a little more fluid and limber in the way that he got open, where Tate has a little bit of that, but I'm really encouraged by the steps he took this year as a more technically sound route runner. The steps, everything has a purpose, the way he can snap out of his breaks. He might be the best sideline receiver I've scouted in a long time, and I think it's a really underrated skill, because not only the balance and awareness to walk that fine line across the white, but then also he's got the length where he's going to pull those balls back in bounds, and he did it repeatedly on his Ohio State tape. So Tate is a guy that if you take him at number 6, I don't think anybody's blinking an eye and thinking it might be a little too early. It's more a question of, do you feel good about one of those tackles being there for you at 24?
What is the gap for you between those 3 receivers and then Boston, Concepcion, those guys who most people have later? How big's that gap?
I think it's a teardrop, but not like a massive, okay, we're going from starters to potential starters and backups. I don't think it's anything like that. It's more, and I think we have to keep in mind too, like, what type of receiver do you want? Because these guys are all a little bit different. Tate, I think he's more of your prototypical Z. Mekhi Lemon's more of he can play outside, but I think he does his best work from the slot. The Amon-Ra St. Brown effect. Where Denzel Boston, he's more of your true X. Big physical guy, can win down the field. Casey Concepcion, more of that, can play inside-outside slot. I think Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, he's also in that mix, who, I think he's a first-rounder all day. He did most of his damage from the slot at Indiana. But his ball skills, the way that he can create after the catch, broken tackles, the toughness, I think he can win inside, outside. So another guy that I think teams are going to be pretty excited about, somewhere in that middle to top 25 range in the first round.
Yeah. When you look at the tackles, let's turn it around the other side. How do you like the top of this tackle class? Because if you take receiver at 6, then you're looking at tackle 24.
Right.
Take tackle at 6, maybe you're looking receiver 24. How do you like the top of this tackle class, and compared to the last time we went in this market in the top 10, when you had Thomas and Wills and Wirfs and Becton? How do you see these classes stacking up, and is there somebody you'd pound the table for at 6?
It definitely is a unique group because the top two guys were both right tackles, right? Spencer Fano from Utah, Francis Maui Noah from Miami, and so do you plan on keeping them at right tackle? Is that because I think that for both of them it's their natural position, and anything projecting them to left tackle would be just that, a projection where it's guesswork. And even a guy like Maui Noah, I think a lot of teams, I won't say a lot, I'll say some teams, maybe even half. I don't know how all 32 teams feel, but I know quite a few like him better inside at guard. That's his best position. It's almost like a Zach Martin situation where he could stay outside and big tackle, he'd be just fine. But if you really want to maximize what he can do, moving him inside to guard is really good. Fits his skill set, his body.
Would you pick that at 6?
Right, and that factors into your decision making there. Because again, I think a theme of this draft, I mentioned the quarterbacks and running backs, but another theme of this draft is going to be just draft good football players in the top 10, top 12. Because we're going to get caught up so much with Caleb Downs. Can you draft a safety that early? Sonny Styles. Can you draft an off-ball linebacker that early? Jeremiah Love. Can you draft a running back that early? And then also with these tackles, Spencer Fano and Maui Noah, both right tackles. I don't think the left tackle, right tackle means as much these days.
Right.
But you better feel good about him staying outside at tackle as opposed to needing to move inside to guard. Monroe Freeling was a guy, I remember my first mock draft I ever did in this cycle was like Thanksgiving, and I put Monroe Freeling in there, and I received a lot of who? Like what? Like he's not. No one's talking about him going first round. Just wait, because teams are talking about him going first round. And I think he's a guy that if he went back to school, back to Georgia, we'd be talking about him in the top 10 next year. So if that's the case, if we're talking about him, if we think another year of development would have put him in the top 10, why aren't we talking about him in the top 10 this year as a possibility? Yeah. And so I think he's more of that true left tackle skill set. A young player, but you love the thudding hands, you love the agility, the way he moves. It's just he's young, and there's going to be some bumps along the road, and you have to be okay with that. So, but he brings more of a true left tackle skill set as opposed to those top two guys.
You mentioned a couple of guys in terms of drafting good football players. You know our roster very well and know that we need a lot on the offensive side. You mentioned Downs. Downs is there at 6.
That's, I understand both sides of this argument. I really do, because, again, draft good football players. Draft guys that are going to transform not only what happens on the field, but also behind the scenes. And a guy like Caleb Downs is going to do that with the way he's wired, how smart he is. I remember at the Combine last year talking to Jack Sawyer and asking him about some guys for upcoming next year. He brought up Caleb Downs and just said he's a pro. He blew us away with the way he came in, head down, work. Like, it's no mystery how good he is because of everything that he puts into it. And so I'm interested to see here at the Combine. He's not going to be a big tester. Like, that's not size, speed. Like, it'll be fine. It won't be deficient, but it's not his calling card necessarily. What separates him is how smart he is, how versatile he is, and I think we saw it, 3 years in college, he played under 3 different defensive coordinators, asked to do 3 different things. And, this year, especially in Patricia's scheme, a lot of disguises, a lot of responsibilities on him, where if it's a run, okay, he's doing this. If it's a pass, he's going to do something totally different, and you have to be on the right page. And so just not a lot of college safeties are doing that. And so I think with Caleb Downs, I think most people listening to this know just how special he is, so I don't need to sell you. But it's more about this team and their specific needs, and you want to draft someone that impacts, who's going to be the greatest impact for your roster. Does Caleb Downs make that much of an impact where that's the right pick, or do they need to really focus on defense, specifically those 2 positions? I think it's a really worthy debate.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
I mean, when we got the 2 first-round picks, you go back and play old CBDs. We're like, all right, let's get a receiver and let's get Caleb Downs. That was right. Our dream scenario outcome in this draft. Now, I think that it's very different, and the needs on offense are pressing. You brought in Todd Monkin. We got to go shopping on offense. So to kind of tie this all back together, then, if you're there, you have your pick of anybody at 6 and 24. Are you going tackle, receiver, or receiver, tackle?
Yeah, it's tough. And I think a big part will to see what they do the next
Free agency is going to
month.
affect it for sure.
Right, and we know they only have so much money to spend, and they got to be creative with the way that they're going to address this roster. I think I would probably go Spencer Fano, the tackle from Utah, plug and play starter, a guy that is really good now, but he's still young. And you think about he's 21 years old. You think about what he's going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, and just a real building block on that offensive line. And then I feel good about whether it's Concepcion, Omar Cooper, one of those
Boston.
Denzel Boston, one of those guys being
Kind of
there.
like in Boston. I like his size.
If you
He's a good player.
want, he is a good player. He's not going to be a big time separator, but big. He's not a slug. He's got some speed, and love him. I think some of the tracking stuff, like over his shoulder, is a little iffy. But when he's facing the ball, he will extend, secure the ball, and make plays. So a big time chain mover in that offense.
Do we learn anything, and I'm saying we as the drafter, you as the draft community, but then we as the Cleveland Browns, from Jed Wills, and that if we draft a guy who's only been a right tackle, do we maybe think about just saying the league's changed, the right tackle's getting paid just like left tackles? Do we say, all right, let's just put him at right tackle?
Yeah, I don't like the Jed Wills issues. I think were obviously, they're deeper. Why he didn't work out, and part was injury, part of it was other stuff. So I think that just him being the right tackle, I don't think there's a ton of comparison there. As long as you are sold with Fano the person, and everything I've heard, talking to Utah coaches, talking to scouts, he's this big gregarious guy. He's going to fit in whatever locker room he's in. Still young. He was born in 2004. He's a young kid. So I think as long as you feel good about the maturity and his ability to develop and learn, you're going to be just fine taking him and betting on that. And that pass rushers are left side, right side, like they're coming at you.
Yeah.
So I don't. Ideally, you want a guy that can play both. And he played left tackle as a freshman, and so it's not like he's completely foreign from it. But it is a little bit of a projection if you're going to talk about moving him over to the left side.
So just from a philosophical standpoint, if it's two linemen and a receiver, ideally, what's the order of those three if you're Andrew Berry?
In the top 40?
Yeah.
I think it really it's hard because it depends on the board falls to you at 24 and then 39.
The only thing you control those 6, right? So that's the one where you're setting the tone. Tate, Fano, or however that
Potentially
looks.
they could both be gone.
They might both be. Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
It's possible. I think Tennessee at 4 will be really interesting. The Giants at 5 are wide open. So both could be on the board. Neither could be on the board. That is definitely a factor in this. But yeah, I think we're going to hear a lot of, like we do every year, trade back or that. Who? No one's trading up. I mean, I won't say no one because it's someone could fall in love with Jeremiah Love or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
But I think it's not likely that we see a team really looking to go up and get somebody. So it's hard to really plan that out ahead of time when you just don't know how those first 24, 23 picks are going to go. I will say most years tackles go. I mean, because there's so many teams that need them, and there's more of a drop off than receiver. In my top 100, I had 17 receivers in there. So yeah, even though you are taking a little bit lesser of a player, maybe if Denzel Boston's not there and you're waiting till 39, at the same time, you look at the receivers that are there, and I still feel good about this guy or that guy. Where at tackle, it's like, okay, this is, where our top 7 tackles are all gone, and we don't feel good about 8, 9, 10.
Is there a way to maybe at 6 get the tackle that you want, 24 get a good receiver, obviously, and then at 39, just the way that the league values certain things, maybe get an interior guy that might be maybe a first-round talent per se, but because he's on the interior, you get to swipe him, early second. Like where the Browns got Joel Bitonio, who has been quite good for us for well over a decade.
Yeah, I mean, I think the top guard, the top interior lineman this year is Vega Ioane, Penn State, who, I mean, he's a top 15 player in this draft easy. And then there's a little bit of a drop-off until that next interior guy. Chase Basantis from Texas A&M is my number 2 guard. But he's kind of in that second-round range. I don't think you feel like you're getting a steal with him at that point. But I think it'd be a fine pick because he's a really good player, young player, Jersey kid. I know Ohio State wanted him really bad before he went to A&M. He's another one that you kind of worry about the position flex. Is he a left guard only? Do we feel good about him moving around? So that's something that I think teams are going to really try and figure out during the draft process. Is just can he play these different positions, or is he really just a left guard only?
Are there any guys, let's call it third round on, that you really like? When I look at our defense right now, I think Miles Harden played well in the slot, and maybe end up getting one of those safeties who you can make a nickel as well.
Mm-hmm.
But are there any kind of safety slots or pure true slots that you really like, and then will linebackers? Because if we're not able to retain Devin Bush, that's a position that we're gonna need. I know this is at least we've heard it's a deeper linebacker draft. I'm not saying I've watched any linebacker tape at all.
I think it is. I think it is a deep linebacker group, and so I think you could wait till the 4th round, and I feel like you still feel pretty positive you're getting a good player. So linebacker, I think that they will come away with someone that they really like somewhere in the first 5 rounds. I think that you can do that and feel comfortable. Nickel, 3rd round, trading Stukes from Arizona. A little bit of an older player, so we'll see how this team would be okay with a guy like that. But I think he had 4 interceptions this year. Like, he's got that GGI gear, like go and get it gear. When the ball's in the air, he's going to come down. And so he's a true nickel, where that's where he played in college. That's where he's going to project best at the next level. So I really like Chris Johnson from San Diego State. If he's there in the 3rd round, I think that'd be a steal at that point. This is a corner nickel group where I think that through the 3rd round, I like the depth, the talent. Then I think there's a little bit of a drop-off. And so I think if you want to come away from this draft with a corner or a nickel, 3rd round might be kind of that sweet spot. Yeah.
When you look at Todd Monkin in Baltimore, obviously Mark Andrews, and we've got Harold Fannin. They also had Isaiah Likely, and they also had Charlie Kohler, who was a big part of their run game. Any kind of tight ends that you like in this draft that could be that second tight end in some of our 12 personnel?
Well, kind of just like linebacker, this is a deep group of tight ends where you could take one early. Kenyon Sadiq is going to go somewhere in the 1st round, and then I like Max Clare from Ohio State, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. Those guys will be day 2 picks. But you can wait until round 4, round 5, round 6, and get a good tight end. Will Kaczmarek from Ohio State, he was the other Ohio State tight end, but you look at Jackson Hawes and the impact he made for Buffalo as a rookie last year as someone that, when he's targeted, he'll catch the ball, but his blocking, that's really what's going to separate him. Kaczmarek is kind of that guy from the Buckeyes, who, again, when he's targeted, he catches the ball. He didn't have a single drop in 2 years at Ohio State, but his bread and butter is the blocking, both pass protection, and then when he gets after it as a lead blocker, he will run through guys' face, bury them into the ground. And so if I can get that in the 4th round, I'm feeling good about that.
Feels like somebody we would enjoy.
And this is a good draft for those guys. Nate Borkicker from A&M. It is a deep tight end class where you think about the Browns specifically, we don't need to draft one in the top 100, but once we get to day 3, there'd be 4 or 5 names I'd be circling. Like, let's come away with one of these guys by the end of the night.
I always remind our audience of this. It's your business to know all this stuff. It never ceases to amaze me that we can drop any position, any player, and he's on it.
And
on it.
Round
projections. Like, we're talking 4th round tight end. Like, you're the
never
best,
nervous
like you said,
about putting him on the spot.
Right?
Never nervous about putting him on the spot.
No, because there is no spot.
How many years for you, by the way, is this with the Beast and at the Combine?
This is my 16th year at the Combine. 2011 was my first, which was, I think it was Cam Newton year. So that was fun. It's crazy the way it's evolved since those days. And then the Beast, I don't. My freshman year dorm room was kind of the first year I put it together, so it's been a minute down there at Mount Union, McCreary Hall back in the day. It's every year you try to top it, try to get better, and so this year it's a challenge every year to try to take it to that next level, and we've got some things cooked up, and so I can't wait to share it with everybody.
You're the best,
awesome.
buddy. Thank you for
Thanks,
your time.
guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that's the great Dane Brugler. The Beast will be out soon. That is it's a must-have accompaniment to getting your draft prep, and then obviously when the draft goes on. Shout out to the great Jimmy Bang Bang watching the show here today as we wrap things up, day 2 of the Combine. He was texting me. He's fired up. He's listening. He's digging all of our Combine content. Gibbe, again, great job putting this all together today. Want to thank Jordan Reed from ESPN, obviously Dane Brugler. Want to thank our head coach here at Cleveland Browns, Todd Monkin, as well. Thanks, Dr. J. Thank young Gabriel, Tequila Fila, Starkey, Ricky, Vincenzo, the great Bo Bishop. And we've got to go. We'll be back with day 3 from the Combine tomorrow here. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.